Hey guys, what's up? Ryan Alford here with the latest edition of the Radcast, joined by the digital media manager here at Radical, Josh Hill. What's up, Josh?
What's going on?
Hey, good to have you.
Good to be here.
So, our definitive, are we calling it definitive? I think it's definitive
Might
now.
as well, yeah.
I think I've been playing it up as our definitive. We'll be later on because we talk about trends and a million other things when we're on the show about
tentatively definitive.
Tentatively definitive. We reserve the right to change our minds at any time. Trends and things and news in general changes so quickly these days. I don't think there can be anything definitive. But here today on December 21st of 2020.
This is it.
This is it. We're coming down to the end. We'll have our marketing trends for 2021. Before we get into that, Josh, I think, this is going to be primarily looking forward. I like to look forward. I'm not a rearview mirror guy, but I think that it does do some justice to talk a little bit about what's been a pretty damn strange year.
Yeah.
As a whole. I know. I think everyone's counting down the moments to kind of get through it. It's been weird, wacky, and crazy, but what have been any, even personally, but definitely from a marketing perspective, anything that's obviously we've battled COVID and still battling it, but anything that's kind of resonating with you as we look back?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the general shift to the digital life. As a digital marketing manager, I live pretty online. I mean, at
it's
work,
your job.
Yeah, it's my job. It's my job to be online.
It's kind of like digital.
A lot of
my job.
Yeah, a lot
I'm
of
gonna buy you a T-shirt that says that.
Yeah,
digital.
I love that.
It's my job.
I'm like a digital guy.
Yeah,
but a higher, I'd say a higher portion of my learning, entertainment, and everything has kind of moved even further online. I had a lot of concert plans at the beginning of the year and some tickets that I had to get returned. But I attended a lot of live stream concerts. A lot of artists were doing bedroom stuff. A lot of people were doing green screen stuff. One of my favorite artists did a show at the Red Rocks Amphitheater, completely empty, and that was really cool. A lot of people if you were online, you could yell into your mic at the end of one song, and then you could vote on what colors to change the background. That was kind of fun.
Ooh,
but
I like it.
Yeah,
interactivity within the
getting interactive.
Yeah,
but I think that was the biggest resonator for me, was shift to digital, more live stream stuff, more FaceTime hangouts with friends, stuff like that.
Well, I think, and we've talked about this on other episodes and maybe even AdGab, a few other segments that we do. They say that the transition to e-commerce and digital channels sped up by the rate of what they anticipated to be 7 years worth of transition happened in roughly 10 months.
Yeah, I think most of the tools that people are using for e-commerce and new online stuff is not new by any means. Instacart's been around, these drive-in grocery places been around, curbside pickup's been around, but it's the way we use it has definitely changed. And so more people, I think, realize oh wait, it is a lot easier to just online shop for groceries and then go pick it up, or it is a lot easier to get delivery, or all these things I was buying in person, e-commerce is way easier.
Yeah, I think what it increased the people start to adapt things when they're ready and try things on their own time.
Yeah.
Suddenly it became necessity to try these things, because if you were going to do or get these experiences and or products, the only way was digital.
Yeah.
For at least, no matter what state you lived in, South Carolina being a little more conservative and thus opening up more quickly like we did here, but universally you had a 3-month-ish period where everything was pretty shut down, and if you wanted anything, you needed to be online.
Yeah.
And then in most places, probably with the most population, those things have stayed through. So it's been forced to try. Mm-hmm. And then once they've tried, I think what you're going to see, which we'll get into with 21, is that genie's not going back in the bottle.
No. Yeah.
Whoa, this really is more convenient. Oh,
yeah.
I can, do all of these things. Obviously Amazon's been around forever, but, but still the numbers are crazy because as much as, we live and breathe the digital world, it feels like, Amazon's been around for a while and social channels have been around, but only 8, depending on markets, so 8 to 12% of all sales were online.
Yeah.
All sales. Like, it blows my mind when I read that stat before COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So as far along as we had come, there was still the bandwidth, the headroom, as you call it, was still so vast.
Yeah.
And even now, we've gone. There was anticipation of a couple points a year, but we think we've gone to we're in the 20s now.
Yeah.
And
I think if you pull out the back to my business degree, the product life cycle, a lot of people, when they talk about trends, they're talking about the trend setters, the early adapters and stuff. But then there's it takes years for that big hump of most people to jump onto it. So yeah, these could have been trends maybe from 5 years ago, but I think now it's just now come to fruition of these new e-commerce things, these new delivery platforms like Uber Eats, Grubhub, that stuff got really popular. I think we're just getting to that point of it's becoming widely accepted by people. I mean, it takes a long time. If you look at the streaming versus cable people, people who are on Dish and traditional cable TV, I think this last year or the year before that was the first time that streaming users overtook the traditional cable. Saying traditional cable because it's still kind of new, but
yeah, traditional linear.
Yeah, linear.
Yep.
But these things take time, and sometimes it takes it literally took a whole pandemic and forcing people to stay inside to get on this.
I know. So if you're a conspiracy theorist, Jeff Bezos caused the pandemic.
Yeah.
Because has anyone's net worth increased more than Jeff Bezos?
Yeah.
I don't think so. And he was already a really wealthy dude.
If you've seen that video clip, he's got robot arms now,
yes.
like Doc Ock from Spider-Man. So it's game over at this point.
Yes, exactly. And before anyone quotes me, I'm joking. I have no ill will towards Jeff Bezos, and I don't think he started the pandemic, but he certainly benefited from it from a financial standpoint. But once you get into the billions, if you got 30 billion versus 100 billion, I'm sure he thinks there's a difference, but
I remember my first billion.
Yeah, I know. I've kind of lost track of mine, but I spent it too quickly in the casino. Before we jump into 21, again, managing ads for all of our clients with your team, and seeing into the channels and the formats and any things, just kind of obviously we just talked about digital as a whole and the transformation that's just the gasoline on the fire that's happened. But anything by way of observing and looking back at the year and going, this changed or this really stands out.
Yeah. So one of the biggest hurdles anytime is kind of when you're messaging to people, usually a really effective way to go about it is building that FOMO, the fear of missing out. And one of the easiest ways to do that in the past was show your restaurant with a ton of people there, or your store with lots of people there, or people using your product, your service, testimonials and stuff.
Yep.
And kind of showing that within the lifestyle. And then now last year you were kind of going towards people in a digital lifestyle. How do you kind of jumping that hurdle of how do you make people realize other people are involved, where they want to join in? And so that was kind of a big hump to kind of get around. And so it took a lot more kind of building social engagement, kind of collecting those views, collecting those likes and comments on posts. So people were kind of creating a community online. And like really a big change was I saw this really successful brands did this. And then we did this with a few of our clients, is trying to make those like posts and videos, those ads, either like native posts or the ads kind of be a place of people can comment, give feedback, like really just engage and create a conversation between the brand and the people.
Yep.
We did some fun, like we did even like silly stuff. Like we said like, show us, like tell us your favorite like menu item at this restaurant. We'll tell you what band or movie you would like the most. We're like stuff like that. And it's just a way to like get people, like especially during the height of quarantine, people were bored at home, like just looking to engage with someone else.
Yep. So that creating that feedback loop, I
Right.
guess, is kind of what I'm summarizing that down. And obviously driving engagement, but kind of having more of that real time discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also leaning into, it's kind of a content approach, but like leaning into your videos and then leading into live streams was a big thing. Kind of like opening the doors up a little bit and kind of really being honest was really effective. Of just being like, hey, like you get on live and you just talk to your people. Like you don't even have to talk about your business. You're not doing a sales pitch. You might just show them how something works. If you're a restaurant, you might show them how to cook a meal. I saw a lot of places in town were doing take and bake meals of like, there's a local pizza shop of like, come get a ball of dough and sauce and cheese and like make it yourself. Like it kind of like helps you feel involved. And also it's a great way to like show behind the curtains of like, we make this fresh and this is what goes into it. And so I think that really helps in the future.
The irony of everything that's happened is by taking people out of the businesses, like not going live, brick and mortar, not having those in-person experiences, consumers are actually able, the brands have done it well, to get closer to the business.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds totally like against, like reverse.
Yeah.
But in a way, the brands that really have done well and thrived have opened the curtain more to really what's going on, what's happening, the transparency of doing it yourself or seeing what's happening. And so like the need and opportunity for content combined with the reality of consumers really wanting, brands really wanting consumers to engage with them kind of required a little bit more of that transparency.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that's contrary to what you might expect. Like, oh, we get closer, you know, not to be cliche with some of the country music songs I listen to. It's like, we've gotten closer by being apart. But in some ways, the brands that have done well probably have gotten closer to their communities by being distanced.
And I think that's not going anywhere. I think that's only going to continue. But while I think that's going to continue, I don't think everyone's going to jump on it. And I think only the people who do it and do it well and do it right, like, will be really successful with that.
Yep, I agree. Well, let's transition to 2021, shall we?
Let's go to the future.
Go to the future. If we had an effect, Riley, I would have wanted like do. Anyway, maybe it's not that insightful, but we'll pretend that it is.
Yeah.
No. So, Josh, let's transition to 21. You know, not that we're going to start in order, but I do want to just these, and I will say this: these are 2021 marketing trends. We want to take this at 70,000 feet a little bit. We'll drill down on some things. We're doing some drilling down with AdGab and those kind of things. I think we're talking holistically here from a broad marketing standpoint, branding standpoint, content standpoint. We'll get specific with certain things, but this is really about some overarching trends that we see going across the marketing landscape. So we'll tee it up there. And again, not to put any of these in any sort of order of definitiveness or necessarily importance, But where would you start for you, Josh, is maybe, a key number one?
Key number one. Wow. Jumping right into it.
Jumping right in.
I mean, I think people need to, this has kind of been a running theme over multiple podcasts. I hear in a lot of episodes you say people are still not utilizing digital channels as they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's time to do mostly digital ads. And it's time to kind of do more cohesive content behind those. I think I see a lot where they have their social channel looks one way and then their ads look another way. They kind of need to feed together along with the site, their website. And I think messaging should be I see a lot of kind of disparate messaging across where it's there's no central theme to businesses. And I think broadly speaking, with everyone moving online, there's going to be, it's not just, oh, you're in town, so you're a brick and mortar B2B company, less people are seeing your visual store, your in-person stuff. You're moving online to the World Wide Web where there's a million other places the exact same size who can do the same thing you do. And you're trying to be this, that, and the other. And you're just kind of blandly saying, hey, we're available and we do this. That's not going to cut it. You're just going to get lost in the noise. You're going to get lost in the sauce.
Yep. I love that because it's so interesting, because hearing you say that and thinking about what I hear out of business people and things that I read, and e-commerce is no longer a differentiator.
No.
And I think a lot of businesses are still in that mindset of, yeah, but we're gonna have our stuff online now.
Yeah.
Nodding. Look, they want acceptance that's differentiating.
We've seen that
them.
in every industry.
It's really, you are? Okay, wow, you're gonna sell a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking the Elf movie. Thinking back to them, yeah, sure, all right, gumballs
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Okay. Really differentiated. You can sell online. Okay. I could be selling t-shirts in 5 minutes on Shopify.
Yeah.
So, again, thinking about what I would almost drill down that to online omnichannel. So forever, we thought of omnichannel as integration of offline and online.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're seeing here is in 21, there's going to be an expectation for consumers and a need for brands to be omni-channel in their online approaches.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is that exactly what you just said, synergy across those platforms. Okay, so what do I mean? For a real life example, one of the key trends we talk about, Sue, I will be bringing up is social selling. But again, your social experience with your online experience, with your chat experience, your products, your services, your communications, across all digital being integrated and having a cohesive experience for the customer.
Yes.
Because what happens now in a lot of instances, yes, it's still disconnected offline and online, but in this world where the digital genie isn't going back in the bottle and consumers are shopping you across these channels and experiencing your brand, if you don't have a digital integrated approach, you're going to be left behind.
Right.
And you're already behind.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see budgets have already started to head this way with digital ads and stuff, which is where you kind of went with this at the beginning. But the brands that really kind of get it together for having the right hand talk to the left across all of these channels, and it's both internally and externally.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what happens is disconnect, and I've seen this because having worked with the brands we work with now and brands I've worked with in the past, the disconnection of all of these parts is so apparent. Because I even 5 years ago, working with a brand I won't even name, how just disparate these parts. Well, that's what the online team. Like the brand team. That's the online team. We're talking about the digital team. Like I'm the brand team, digital team. Like, how is this?
It's the same company.
Yeah, it's the same company.
We work
right?
for the same place.
Yeah, we're selling the same. What's the goal here? Well, we're trying to sell more of these. Well, and what are we trying to do? We're trying to get more service contract. Okay, all right, that's the goal. These all have to talk to each other.
Yes,
and I think with COVID exponentially increasing the online channels, the expectation for those things to really live, breathe, and act together is going to be really important. And I think, I'm going to say it now, linear TV is DEAD, dead.
Yes.
Dead as a doornail. And I'm just going to say it right now, and somebody listening to me, and I still have media planner friends in New York that buy a lot of TV, and I get it, but it's dead. It is, if you have more than 10% of your budget in linear TV, it's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
That is your exclamation point trend there. That should be a trend on its own, but I'm just saying, because here's the deal, and I will say this, we were talking about like what's changed. Even 18 months ago, I wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
But people now, even when they're home, unless you're like 60 plus, linear TV is not being watched. 18 months ago, I was watching news in linear TV. I'm 43 years old, and I own a digital agency, but I don't do it anymore. And I don't know exactly what changed. And I have cable TV still at home. I watch sports only on it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only time I watch linear TV. And I don't know what's changed, but something in my own habits have changed. And the need for people to realize that digital, that everything needs, and I even, hesitate sometimes to putting the word digital in front of it because it's really just where marketing and eyeballs are today.
Yeah. I think that brings a kind of extended trend of advertising approach is, with that being dead, you need to stop thinking of ads as commercials.
Yes.
Like they are, like you are going to digital channels with different placements and different looks. Stop making a 30-second TV commercial try to work on Instagram. It's not going to be the same.
That's exactly right.
And I think kind of going back, like when you are making these things, you're going to be making a lot more formats, a lot different placements. But you're going to have the same key brand messaging of like you want to find that key pillar, maybe a couple supportive things, but it's all going to work across all your channels. Like you have to differentiate yourself online. Otherwise, you're going nowhere. And like you can try to be all things to all the people and like, oh, we do everything, we do it all. But like I think it's way more effective when you're honest and you say, we do this, but we're not for this. If you're looking for this, we like are probably not your best bet. And I've seen a lot of like new companies kind of do that really well. And like, unless you've got that Coca-Cola ad spend, that those massive budgets and you can spend a few $100,000 a month, you need to focus on what you can actually do.
Yep. I love it. All right. I'm just going to tee up number 2. So I put you on the spot for number 1. And that was a broad one for sure for us, but number 2 for me, and might be what I think 2021 to me is going to be the year of social selling. I think I've talked about this in previous episodes a little bit, but we've reached this plateau of demand with capability across the channels and the ability to do what we just talked about with number 1, which was integrate the experiences, because it was so clunky before on Instagram or Facebook, like, 17 clicks later, and I still don't have, I haven't bought anything yet.
Right.
Combined with the interactivity within the content itself. But you finally got the platforms figuring it out. I think you're going to see, you've got the Shopify integration with TikTok. I think TikTok's ad platform is going to continue to evolve quickly.
Right.
I think so. It's a matter of time where you're going to see direct buying within the platform. They're already linked with Shopify, so there's some integration already there. But I think you're going to see this, and I even lump into this, it's a really large category, but even the influencer marketing within social and the ability to buy and purchase within that whole loop, I think all of these things are coming to a head here in 2021. So I see social selling, if anywhere from 8 to 15% of your overall e-com. I see it double, tripling, easily being potentially 30% or more of the overall online buying pie for brands that do this well and leverage the platforms correctly.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I see this a lot with kind of the side hustlers. Like, I see a lot of like young college age students doing this, where they're running businesses exclusively online, like exclusively on like social media. They won't even have a website. It'll be just Instagram where they can do the taggable shopping. And I've seen, it seems like a lot of like people doing side hustles are utilizing it even more quickly than big brands are. And it's like going really well for them because they'll like integrate with Etsy and other things. They'll never have like an actual website, but they'll make a lot of money for it. I had some friends jump on that in college a few years ago, and like one dude paid his rent and like put a down payment on a house just from doing like a few hours a week.
Yep.
When like you'd see massive e-commerce brands not even like testing out anything. It's like this is like there's money to be made here in these new platforms. Like you kind of have to like get with the program a little bit, not be this like slow moving, like wait till it picks up. Like if you want to be cutting edge, you have to do it.
Well, this is why the D2C brands are killing the major brands, and just to ultimately get bought by the big brands.
Right.
It's the nimbleness of leveraging these things fast enough. That's what it is. It's like a slow bus to China. Like it's like it for those of us in the U.S. And if you're coming from China to U.S., probably need a boat. So maybe not a bus.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it's just like, it's so funny. Like we had James Gregson, who's with Lego, one of the creative directors, brilliant guy, talking, and he was even admitting, for Lego, like getting that bus rolling, like how slow it can be. Like they try to be on the advance of things, but it does like stall innovation.
Yeah.
Just the red tape that's involved with the larger brands and integrating some of these things, while the D2C companies and the quick young entrepreneurs can they're on TikTok doing videos and selling stuff on their e-com store within 2 days. And it takes even the largest, best brands in the world 2 months. And it used to take 2 years, but now they're doing it 2 months. So they've gotten better. But it's like some of these trends come and go faster than you can. But leveraging social selling, I do think that B2B has got to carve out their niche in this.
Yes.
I think you're going to see more. You've got to make it easier for businesses to do business with you online through e-commerce, and leveraging the aspect of social selling in some way. I think the businesses that figure this out will really win in 21.
Yes, absolutely. Like you've got to be able to transition from no trade shows, and also like the webinar is kind of overplayed at this point. Like having the social channels and doing the social selling creates this like perfect hub of content for people to go to on their own time, instead of trying to schedule out a webinar that's just going to get a meeting like scheduled over.
Totally agree. So social selling big on the 21 trends, because opportunity is finally meeting capability along with demand. And so that's going to be a big one. Let's talk, Josh, just for the sake of numbering, we'll call it number 3. But I think it's as much a trend or an observation or anything like cookieless.
Yes.
So starting in 2022, Google, some of the other platforms, Apple and other, have already started to integrate this, but there's going to be no more cookie retargeting. So I'm going to ask you to kind of give anyone listening that might be, not, I won't even say digitally deprived, but they may not be in it every day. Maybe give everyone a broad understanding of how the cookie crumbles. Literally,
it's crumbling.
The cookie is crumbling.
It is crumbling.
But the impact of this, and what it's doing today. So, like, how is the cookie used today, and what the impact of that going away might be, and then we can both kind of chime in on what we see coming out of that.
Yeah. So the cookie in its broadest form, there's been minor updates and stuff, is close to 20 years old in technology-wise. and it has a shelf life. That's why they call it a cookie. It's a small little thing, and it deteriorates. So like 30, 60, 90 days out, it goes away.
It doesn't taste as good.
Yeah, it doesn't taste as good. So they're going to get you a fresh cookie. So that's all well and good. I think the cookie is really really effective, because whenever you go to a site and whenever you go like check out a product, check out a service, like watch a video, go anywhere online, or like do your add to cart, start a checkout process, like these cookies are collecting data and they're saving it to your browser, whether you're on your phone, your computer. Sometimes they're interconnected. And nowadays you can even do it through connected TV platforms and like video game platforms like Xbox, PS4, Roku, like smart TVs. So this is all collecting data for a number of reasons. One, it's going to collect your behavioral stuff. So like what you're interested in. So your ads and social ads are going to be more curated to match what you are interested in, just based off your browsing behavior. And keep in mind, like what you're searching is signaling the computers, so it might not be guessing exactly what you're into. But so this is really important for small brands who are trying to reconnect with people who are like started the checkout process but kind of abandoned it at some point. Like this the cookie gave people the ability to send them more ads later, the retargeting ads, and do follow-up emails and stuff. And a lot of marketers have kind of started leaning into their targeting and not their messaging, to where it's just kind of an okay message of like, oh, we'll provide this service for you. But it's highly targeted, so it's reaching the right people. Now that's going away. So now you're kind of bound to the social selling, using the platforms you have, your content creation, but you're going to be a lot more limited on targeting. Like Facebook put out a notification to all like ads manager users where they said that Apple's already, with their newest update, is going to severely limit cookie use. And so a lot of iPhone users, which is a lot of people, you're not going to be able to retarget them nearly as well as you could. So that means like machine learning optimization is out. Like AI driven like stuff is out. So you can't optimize for purchases. You now have to optimize for a higher funnel thing, like optimizing for clicks. I know a lot that kind of like is not going to be like useful to a lot of people unless you're in like manager, like ads platforms. Yep. But for those of you who are, like, I think it's time to really kind of reflect, where are your ads going? Like, does it make sense contextually? Like, you want to think of your consumer. You want to think about what your ad is saying. Is it different is it standing out from the feed? I don't think we're still kind of seeing how it's going to affect geographical targeting. I know Facebook's really fighting that, because if we take away geographical targeting, then only the massive, like national brands with the major budgets will be able to be seen, and your mom and pop stores with a few $1,000s or a few $100s ad spend are going to be like shoved down the feed, and they might be showing up 3 states over.
For anyone listening, does this mean that will you be able to retarget? So if I'm a company, and today you place a pixel on your website that again tracks the behavior and all those things, will people be able to retarget people that come to your site? Some
will. It will depend on your website. It'll depend on your browser and your platform. Like if you're on Google Chrome versus Safari, it's going to depend on how much Apple's allowing you to do versus how much Google's going to let you do. There is a lot of promise where there is a lot of like native, kind of like the walled gardens kind of have a lot of safety measures put in place for their own self, of like a Facebook embedded site is going to be able to retarget like on Facebook and Instagram.
Yep.
But I think potentially a lot of the cross channel targeting is going to be lost. But like general web visits are going to be pretty targetable, but you're probably going to lose a lot of the finite capabilities on certain platforms. And that's kind of where it's kind of up in the air, where it's like, they say it's ending for some people. Some platforms are rolling out like the end way sooner. Some are waiting till later, and they're really kind of ambiguous on what's going to be allowed and not allowed. And there's already some like beta testing of new like alternatives to the cookie. But it's kind of like up in the air of, is there something that's going to be effective, developed fast enough, or are we going to lose everything altogether for the sake of, I guess, like internet anonymity. I don't
know.
Anonymity.
Anonymity. Anonymity. I don't know. Something like that. But not being able to know who's where on the website, on the interwebs.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I want to be careful what you ask for, consumers. So you want all this privacy, and I get that. I mean, nobody wants,
right,
everyone's stuff out there. But the relevancy of ads, it's going to get interesting in the next couple of years.
Right.
There's not a replacement. I'm also, what I think happens is innovations, when these tech companies get their back against the wall, innovation seems to happen. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're going to see some kind of replacement of this somehow. That would be my expectation.
Yeah,
too much money on the line. And then the other part of this is, the scary part is, like you said, with big brands or small brands. Big brands have data management, DMPs, data management platforms, other things, better mechanisms for gathering first-party data. Mm-hmm. So it's back to the, kind of like the joke earlier with Bezos and Amazon, like the rich get richer. But the bigger brands are better positioned for this. Smaller brands that don't have these kind of ad tech stacks are in a weaker position. But I think my takeaway from all of this is encouragement. We tell every client that we have this: collect first-party data.
Yes.
If we get people to your website, if we get people to your store, if we get people interacting with you, you've got to have a mechanism for collecting first-party data. Name, phone number, email. And I don't say that so that we can spam them. Mm-hmm. It's so that we can serve them up relative content, have a relationship with them.
Yes.
Do email marketing, do social marketing, all of those things in a relationship way. So this isn't about spamming. But if you've got a hand raiser, you've got to be collecting first-party data so that you can remarket to them.
Yes.
It's going to be more important than ever because our custom audience lists are going to be very heavily reliant on having that first-party data. And I think that, to me, for 21, anyone paying attention for a trend or takeaway, that's why we need to pay attention to cookies going away. And that's important for large brands or small brands, but even more so for small brands because they don't have some of the technologies in place that the big brands do.
Yeah, and I think it's more incentive to like really get online and like have website like options that appeal to the internet as opposed to just your city or like your location if you're a local person. Like having your services be available like nationwide would give you like better opportunities to like advertise easier and not have to rely on cookies too. And I think the relationship part is a huge thing. 'Cause I always like to think of with the internet and like keeping the relationships and your messaging worthwhile and like making it memorable, you kind of have to treat it as being like your neighborhood mom and pop hangout spot of like, they're going to know, like if you go in there regular enough, like they're going to know your name. They're going to be able to call you if they like need something. They'll ask for your feedback. You're going to be a loyal customer to them and you're going to build that relationship over time. Like you kind of want to approach digital in a similar way of like, you want to collect their information, stay in touch with them, get the feedback because they're your customer. Like they're going to teach you a different perspective of like what they need for solutions, like how they can improve your product and stuff. It's kind of like your super fan. You want to leverage the people closest to you who are like regularly like interacting and have the experience.
Love it. Finally, we're gonna trim this down to 4 key trends. I think that's enough. We got a lot of in depth here. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about content changes. Trends. Content development. How businesses should speak to their customers, the changes in the formats, all of those things, but maybe kind of our broad blanket kind of, trends and content changes for 21.
Yeah.
Where would you start?
I think starting would be looping back to what we kind of touched on earlier is the clarity and the honesty. And when I say like honest, like you want to be truthful with your honesty and not just be sincere. Like there was a lot of brands this year with COVID, with a lot of political movements, a lot of like social political stuff. They were being very sincere in what they were saying, what they were putting on their social feeds, but they weren't being necessarily honest of like, not every brand is a social justice like warrior. Like there was plenty of brands, and a lot of them got exposed of like really trying to visually look diverse, like visually stand for diversity. Like if you look at the Bon Appetit like example, like they had a huge YouTube channel, and they tried to promote different cultures of food, all these things. And turns out for the video placements, only their white like cooks were being paid for the video stuff. They all had salaries, but the white chefs were getting paid extra for their video appearances while everyone else was not. So it's stuff like, and they were trying to post about like other like current events and stuff. It's kind of like you need to, like, people kind of see through the BS of like online, and that's kind of like the internet brings a lot of like transparency. Like I think if you're going to stand for something online, you need to like fully do it throughout your whole company. And that's where I think it is okay to not stand for something like that. Like you don't have to come out and take a huge public stance on every single thing that goes on. That's not utilizing your social channels well, and it's not going to set you up for success, because people are going to smell that out sooner or later. And it just kind of like messes up, like it kind of just, you fall into the noise. Like I think brands need to become more focused in their messaging and more kind of self-aware and honest of like, we do this and this is what we're good at and we're for these people. I think if you can stick to that, you're kind of golden. Where it's that prevents a lot of issues, and it prevents a lot of like confusion and like misleads too, even like in a practical sense of sales.
I think it's just, brands, mass marketing is kind of over.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
If there's one like takeaway from maybe all of these things, it's like mass is dead.
I think
like it's got to be personal. It's got to mean something. You've got to be relevant. You've got to be real. You've got to have it all tied together, and you'll win. There's enough consumers and there's enough scale that if you do that, I think these days of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Amazon, who has all things for all people because they aggregate, they're a curator,
right,
is a little different. But like as a brand or as an entity, you need to hone in on who your audience is and speaking to them more clearly than how all things for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think when you look into like, I guess culturally speaking, of Gen Z and millennial like thinking, we are in a, what people are calling the postmodernism, or they refer, like there's all these concepts of like the new Dada movement. It's like new sincerity. It's just kind of this hyper honest, like they're kind of giving up on society. It's kind of, if you kind of do some, I would recommend doing some Googling on the original like Dada movement, and like think about I said it before, just absurdism. Yes. Where it's just kind of like nothing matters, but to sum it up is like society doesn't matter, like all this like separate brand entity kind of thing is not real. Like we're just people who are doing things. I think that's a great approach in messaging of like, when you're on an ad, like people know you're in an ad. Like you can be honest and say, we're a company trying to sell you something, but we're a team of people who know about this thing, and we're here to help you who needs help with this thing. We will do it at a fair exchange of like, we can help you for this much money.
Yep.
I think people who are really jumping into that well is like Ryan Reynolds. If you look at his ads, he's like, he'll get in a video and say, hi, this is an ad. I make gin. Buy this gin. I would really like you to try it. And it's just kind of like, there's no like, even there's like a lot of really funny commercials like that where it's like it's super self-aware.
Yeah. You seen even AT&T did that with like their latest ad. It used to be called word of mouth advertising. Like, have you seen that commercial with the girl that's been their ads the last few years? You know, she's like, I mean, the ad's like semi okay, you know, but I thought that was the best part of it, was like that real self-realization of this is really a TV commercial.
I think it honestly, if you really think about it, it kind of makes things easier. It takes the pressure off of like, if I remember like starting to get into branding and stuff, and like I was around 2008 to 2010 when everyone's like, you don't need to solely the brand. Your graphic has to look perfect. Your fonts have to be pristine. Yeah, right. And now it's like, man, just make the website work. Like, give me the place to like email or call someone and like, just tell me what your product does. I don't care what I don't care what your site looks like. There's just so much noise out there. I think if you're just simple and you're like, this is what I've said this throughout the whole thing. It's like, this is who we are. We're a bunch of people who know how to do this thing. We'll help you either get this product or do this. People buy into that. People like to buy into other people. People will support others. And we've seen that a lot this year of supporting small businesses, supporting groups of people who are just trying to do their business. And that's it.
I think, back to, and I'm even going to say it out loud, Riley, this is going to be, like our headline for this, whole thing, mass. And maybe it's less that linear TV's dead and it's mass marketing's dead.
Yeah.
Like I won't pick on just linear TV, but these mass channels where, look, I get it. You want reach and you want frequency, but it's perceived reach. And you can drive up the frequency, but it's perceived reach because unless it's, and I know there's like unless it's like nightly news, like I can understand ads on nightly news and I can add ads on the Super Bowl. Totally makes sense because you get the reach. There's just no other reach that you can get like that. So I get it, but you're going to have trouble getting the frequency that you need because Super Bowl's only once a year. A lot of these sporting events have gotten so splintered too, like with attention and everything. So it's embracing not being overwhelmed by all the channels, but finding your channels and getting reach and frequency there, leveraging influencers and all these things, and like leaning into the realities of now instead of being scared of the realities now. Because right now it could be scared as shit. It's hell. Like, holy shit, we got 37 channels that we could be marketing. And I even fall into this sometimes. It's like, oh God, we got YouTube, we got Facebook View, we've got TikTok. I mean, like all these channels. Lean into where your customers are. Yeah. And be real open and honest with them and build a community. Yes. Like, build a community. Like, if you want long-term business, you have to build a community and provide a place where like-minded people can come together, share knowledge, learn from you, and it will generate revenue in the long term.
Yes. I think we've said this in meetings before. We're marketing to people. Yeah. We're not like, I live in the analytics side. Like, I'm staring at numbers all day, but these are people viewing things and interacting. Yep. Like, and that your messaging needs to reflect that, and your whole approach needs to.
B to H. Yeah. Business to human.
Yes.
Yes. It's humanity wins every time. But humanity with it at the highest level, but then heavily sprinkled with relevancy. Yes. And specificity around what you are selling, who is buying it, why they're buying it, why it's important to them, why, like you mentioned before, like, hey, why is this? Yeah, it's great you have an offer, but why do I care? Like how do we make that relevant to them? Yeah. And I think that's got to go throughout your content in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mass marketing's dead.
Mass marketing's dead. There's room, but there is room for you. Like, just
that's the thing. That's what people, the boardroom gets scared hearing terms like that. Yeah, because they want more revenue, but the pie can be big enough, and you can create subsegments of your offering.
So we'll say differentiation can be scary. Of like you're seeing the monkey do, or monkey see, monkey don't. I guess, like, monkey see, monkey do something else. Yes. Like, but brands are doing it well, and there's room for you to be different.
Yeah, I love it. Cool. So there are your marketing trends for 2021. We hope that is helpful. We continue to drive what I think is one of the best marketing podcasts in the country, and really appreciate your insights, Josh.
Oh yeah, happy to give my insights. Are they outsides now?
Yeah, the outsides are now.
My insights are now outsides.
Your insights are outsides. Cool. We hope everyone has a great 2021, whether you're listening to this pre-holidays or post-holidays. Keep listening along. You can follow us at all times at theradcast.com or on Instagram at the.rad.cast, and anywhere else you get your social content or content in general, you can find the Radcast. And we'll see you next time.